everybody, back at it again with this first game of Global War 2025. This is the Allies Turn 1, as you may have read in the video title. Now, this is the Allied counter-assault against the big gains of the Eastern Pact last round. Now, I've hopefully shortened up this video with the way I'm doing it, so it should go a little bit faster now. So, first up we have our purchased units. We have the Pacific Coalition with an LHD. That's a nice Japanese Izumo class helicopter destroyer that I'm using as my LHD. Bunch of infantry. NATO, as you know, has been hit pretty hard, so they went for a bunch of infantry to shore up their defenses. And for the Americans, they bought an extra cruise missile along with a couple of MBTs and infantry for hopefully to reinforce some of their allies. There was a couple of tech attempts made, nothing succeeded. The only thing that did succeed was a NATO influence role on Central African states, which now has aligned, and that will hopefully help the Allies with their beachhead in Africa, as the Caliphate failed to take both the Eastern African states and South African coalition last turn. So I've already set up my attacks for you guys to see. So first up, we have the attack and neutralization of the Russian-aligned Venezuelan and Panamanian governments. So first up, we have this task force right here, which is deploying an infantry and MBT. We have an airborne flying down from Florida. We've got 3 fighter jets from the U.S. carrier force. And we want to play things safe, so with Panama we have not decided to spare any of our resources on the Venezuelan campaign, and we've just fired a couple cruise missiles to pester them and eliminate their defenses so that a offensive can be made next turn into Panama across the canal. The Americans are also sending in helicopters supported by drones and NATO frigates to help out in destroying the Russian subs in the Atlantic. And as you can see, we've got some cool looking new 3D prints that I've gotten from a friend. Here is a Russian submarine, and we've got a cool NATO frigate. This is, I think, a UK frigate. Alright, getting into Europe, where a lot of action is going down this turn. So first up, NATO is using their airbase on Cyprus and submarine in the Mediterranean to hopefully suppress the Caliphate fleet. The Americans are launching a cruise missile attack on the airbase in Saudi Arabia to hopefully eliminate the Caliphate's ability to launch that airborne on any little attack. And then up here in Europe, we have the British home fleet coming up to hopefully take out that Russian guided missile destroyer. Gotta get these names down for new ship classes. And the big battle in Germany. This has to go well and take back Germany, get our stronghold in Europe back. And as the Russians, of course, it's definitely a tenuous thing to try and blitz through Central Europe and then hit Germany with only your tanks left, but it definitely stunts NATO's growth. So like in this turn, hopefully for NATO they take out those tanks, even though it will suck for the Russians. It's definitely a sacrifice that will hopefully go down well to stunt NATO's growth in the long term. NATO is also launching a counter airborne assault on Denmark, while it's still weak with the only 1 airborne division holding it, hopefully to close up that strait. The Pacific Coalition is playing it safe this round as they're surrounded on all sides and took a devastating loss in the Sea of Japan. So they have decided to stick to their borders. Get the camera set up. They've launched a big cruise missile strike on Southeast Asia. We've got a missile going for the Chinese port down there so that they can't fire anti-ship ballistic missiles, and we have 2 general strikes going for units, hopefully to hit a couple of those in that territory. Let's see here. I think that's just about it. The last little thing to mention is some more drone-supported helicopters going for Russian subs in the Pacific Ocean. And overall, that is it for combats, and I'll get back to you when those are concluded. Alright, so combat has concluded, and not too much changes have happened because of the minimal effects of ordnance and the small amount of combats that I did. But we've got, right here in Venezuela, nothing, as you can see, nothing hit Panama, but Venezuela was captured, which is a victory point and worth 3 IPP, although the US did sustain an infantry and airborne as losses. Let's see, nothing else happened except for Germany being captured and the British taking back the North Sea. They did cancel that airborne operation on Denmark last minute to use that helicopter in the liberation of Germany. Moving over here, the Pacific Coalition's effects on the Chinese facilities and units in Southeast Asia were a failure, and the US was able to take out a sub up here and also a sub where you see that helicopter in the middle of the ocean. So now it comes to place units. So, or I guess we'll do non-combats first. So one thing is that this little fleet I need to put back where it was because I didn't consider a few things. So first up, I think I'm going to keep this destroyer down here, or frigate. This, I'm going to probably pull back to Hawaii because I want him protected from any of the sub-threats. Let's see here. We are going to, actually, let's see, get the camera on him. We're going to take him 1, 2 into the Timor Sea. These ballistic missile subs don't affect anything, like they can't surface to attack. We're going to take the Australian Navy to help him out. And this sub was in the Sea of Japan. He's going to move to the South China Sea to be able to launch cruise missiles if needed. Alright, getting in over here, we are going to, let's see, move, I kind of want to reinforce Australia, so, but I think infantry might be best. I was going to move a fighter, but I don't think I will now. We are going to take a helicopter from India. He's going to go 1, 2, 3 into the East African states, and our drone is going to move up to the East African states to help out and assist our units that are deployed there. NATO is going to move in with 1 infantry to also support. Over here, I'm going to put the camera down. So, the carrier is going to go 1, 2, and the fighters from Venezuela are going to go 1, 2, and land on that carrier. This drone is also going to land on the carrier, and this helicopter that came out 1, 2, is going to go 3, 4 into France. Same with the helicopter up in the mid-Atlantic zone. Right. The camera so that we can see all of this. The fighter that attacked Venezuela is just going to land back on his LHD. And this fighter here from the northern US is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, also land in France. Get some US air power over there. And then we're going to strategic sea lift these 2 tanks over here in the southeast United States, and they are going to sea lift into France also. That infantry will sit there. I think might want to airlift another infantry. We'll do that. We'll airlift one more infantry to France. Actually, yeah, France is the. Let's do Italy. You can just barely see that. All right, get these arrows out of here. So, getting in over here. I don't think much is going on with NATO's non-combat. We're going to move this airborne into France. He can hit a couple more targets if he's coming out of that airbase. And then we got to land some of these fighters. So one of these came 1-2. He's going to land back on the LHD. This drone has to land back in another territory. We're just going to put him in Italy. And this fighter is going to come back to France. Then we are going to... Okay, we can't airlift. 1, 2, 3... Yeah. Okay, no airlifting units. So... I think that's just about it for NATO's non-com movements. Yeah. You know, I don't think there's any threat to Canada, although you never know, so I'll leave that infantry there. Pacific Coalition did most of their stuff. Oh yeah, but we do have the US on the Pacific side, so we'll put, do that. You can see most of what you need. Alright, so the main US Pacific Task Force is going to move into Hawaii, and they possess a sub, which I think will break off, go 1, 2, 3 into the South China Sea to hopefully help defend Taiwan with its cruise missiles. So we've got a drone that needs to, these two drones need to land on these carriers and LHDs. We'll meet up with these guided missile destroyers together along with LHD. So the helicopters have 2 movements apiece. We'll land one on Midway and one on an LHD. This fighter here from California is going to go, let's see, we're going to move him to Alaska. We are going to airlift a unit and an infantry. We have, let's see, 2 airlifts. So one airlifted infantry is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into Taiwan. And that's off the screen, but we'll just place them there so you can see what's going on. And we do have a sea lift open, so we'll sea lift a tank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into Taiwan as well to help defend that. Lastly, we have another infantry here from the Northeast United States. He's going to be airlifted to Guam to help defend that territory. And since there's an airbase, he can be airlifted to that territory. And lastly, one of those LHDs is going to pick up and drop off a tank on Hawaii. I think that's just about it for everything. And we'll get into placing units. So first up, we'll just do the Pacific Coalition since we're here. So they've got an LHD that they're going to be placing with their main fleet. That will hopefully extend their range. They might be able to drop off a couple units in Africa or something else. We've got an infantry going into Australia, an infantry going into Taiwan, an infantry up here in the East African states. Oh, and you know, just one thing that I wanted to do that I didn't do in non-combat, we're gonna just take an infantry, and we're gonna, where's my infantry? Alright, we're gonna take an infantry from India, and, oh wait, we don't have air. Okay, I gotta learn the different factions and their abilities to supply different things. So, I wanted to reinforce Diego Garcia, just so that the Caliphate couldn't airborne invade them, but instead I think we'll just sea lift this guy up through here and into Taiwan, just kind of redisperse our units to just show you guys that you can. And then that leaves us with 3 more infantry to place, so we'll just show you the blow-up boxes here. And now these American forces have landed in Taiwan to help defend. You can see Korea is pretty well defended. They do have a lot of infantry or land units on the border, but that DMZ should help us, and the Chinese don't have a lot of amphibious capacity right now to take that territory. So I think that with the rest of our units, we'll do 1 more infantry in Taiwan. We'll go for 1 more in South Africa. This guy will move up during non-combat. And lastly, we'll just put 1 more in India to help defend. Alright, getting into NATO. We've planned out how they're getting placed. So, let's do that. Alright, we've got 1 infantry going in up top in Scandinavia, an infantry to help defend Greece, 2 infantry in Italy, and then 2 in France, 3 in England, or I mean that was 4 in France, 3 in England, and airborne in France. And that is it for the NATO builds. Lastly, for the United States, again, this one's pretty quick. We have on the East Coast another armor and infantry, and on the West Coast, just gonna get my stuff going. There we go. We've got 3 airborne infantry getting placed into Northwest United States. We'll just throw in a tank, Northwest United States, and an infantry in Southwest United States. And that will do it for our placements. And that wraps up round 2 of Global War 2025.